Before we went on air, we're sitting here just like a bunch of chuckleheads laughing. We're going to screw this thing up, but I don't know. We're figuring it out. But nonetheless, we're here now. It's today. It's a beautiful February mid-afternoon morning-ish. And we're going to talk a little bit about leadership for the next 30, 40 minutes, as we always do. And one, we're happy that you're able to join us today. Thanks for coming in. Thanks for dialing in. However you're maybe watching the podcast. And we're joined here with Jordan and Ben and myself, authors of Red Letter Leadership, this book right here, Leadership Lessons from the Life of Christ. And today, we're going to share one with you from our July 28th. I don't think they're dated. No, they're not dated. But it's from Luke 4, where Jesus attempts, or he actually executes conducts a sermon in his hometown. And how did that end for him, Jordan?
They were routing him out of his hometown.
Ran him out. Tried to kill him. That didn't work out well. But the key takeaway here, and what we're going to kind of be discussing today, is that what he mentioned in Luke 4 there is that no prophet has honor in his hometown. And so a lot of folks look at that and they mean like, because they mentioned, he's the son of Joseph and he's got this guy, he's this brother and that brother. And they're like, this is to them, a common man. So a lot of times Jesus is making the point through this story, or you see the point, like you've got to get out of your hometown to have an impact. And we can, I think, parlay that into Jordan. If you go back and read this particular daily Devo and Ben, what that really means is you've got to get outside of your comfort zone, where you're comfortable, used to living at, to really make a difference and have an impact. And that's what this story here is telling us. And so we'd really like to talk today about what it's like, what the decision-making process looks like, and the decision-making continuum, to what it means to think outside of the box and get outside your comfort zone, and maybe even what some of the barriers are that are preventing you from doing that, as well as that's not a preferred course of action. Ben, in your opinion, what are some of the values of thinking outside, quote unquote, the box and not living inside your comfort zone?
Well, that's a great question, first of all. I look at from life experience for sure, where I find myself having to go into uncomfortable space, doing things I've never done before. What that leads me to do, one, initially there's a level of fear, but what is important, I think, what I've learned over the years is God has shown me that actually stepping outside of the box allows me to depend on Him more and depend on myself less, which I think is super important. Now, granted, I say that as if I do that every time, right? And that's not the case. And a lot of times at first, I'll think I'll have all the solutions. I'll figure it out. It's all on me. And then I quickly find out like I'm not that good. But as I get older and a little more wise, I find out like, okay, I'm about to get into some uncharted territory. I'm going to have to think outside of my comfort zone and what I've done. I'm gonna have to think outside the box here on this one because I've never done this before. God, I need your help on this one.
Inside the quote unquote box or comfort zone from a leadership decision-making perspective.
I think one of the greatest drawbacks is there's no growth. And when we're talking from a spiritual perspective, certainly the whole reason why we exist is to love God, right? And to please Him. Part of that, what our responsibility is on earth, is to advance His kingdom. So if we're not able to step out of our comfort zone, and remember, we live in a fallen world. I think Ben and I, a couple of episodes ago, were talking about this. Like we admit we're Christ followers in a fallen world. We shouldn't be comfortable there. If we're comfortable there, there's something wrong. Like are we truly following Christ if we're comfortable in a world that hates Him? So if we are remaining in our comfort zone and we're okay there, we're truly not doing what God has commanded us to do. I mean, just flat out, it's not what He's commanded us to do. Right, exactly. And this is one of the big, I guess, complaints I have with the American church, the body of Christ, which I am a part of, and I am certainly part of the problem. But I see a lot within the church is a lot of programs and ministries and routines and day-to-day things are serving the people that have been attending there for 30, 40 years. Like my church just, and I love them. It's a great church family. They baptized, I don't know, maybe half a dozen people last year. I think they were all like children of people that have been going there for a while, or like to say that there has been new people that we have reached out to, and because of our outreach, because of us going and seeking to make disciples and helping people find Jesus, that has resulted in people coming to our church and being baptized in our church, or at least in another church. I don't really know if we can honestly say that has happened in, the past couple of years. Maybe it has. I'm not, privy to everything, but
I mean, it's not an American certainly, and I think a lot of that's regional, Jordan, because I've seen in the south, I live a little further south than you do, although it's still freezing cold here. It was single digits the last 2 weeks, and I hate it. I have a whole different story about not plowing my driveway, and I should have, and now I was stuck with a block of ice. Anyhow, I've seen a lot of baptisms down here in the Southern Baptist now, and so from new people almost exclusively, and so I think it's a little regional too. There's a heavy,
yeah,
to get too nerdy, a heavy Protestant foothold up there in the northeast, where it gets a little bit different down south, and it's just a culture thing. So I don't know if it's American church as much as it is just I think it's at least minimally a regionally influenced kind of observation.
yeah.
But anyway, speaking of, well, I tell you this. Speaking of comfort zone, I'm glad I lived down here in the South, because I was, grew up as a Methodist, and now I'm a Baptist. Because those guys, they scare me, those Protestants, and so that was not my comfort zone. Here we are now. The Jordan, we especially those Catholic way fast. No, I'm teasing. I got great.
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah, I got a couple others.
And
Yeah.
Anyhow, so people ask the question, Jordan, I think, as sort of establishing, developing leaders, what does it mean, really, to think outside the box? What does it look like? Well, I don't know. A couple years ago, I'm going to pull something up on my screen. A couple years ago, when we were writing this, actually, I did my best over a cup of coffee to try to create a visual, pictorial representation of what that looks like. And so when people think, or say think outside the box, they're like, whoa, hold on. I mean, the box is my operating environment. No, false, fake news.
Yeah.
And everything outside of that's illegal, unethical, or immoral. No, fake news. Your comfort zone is not the operating environment. Your comfort zone is simply that, Jordan, Ben, where you're comfortable. The operating environment is generally much bigger, and if you can see it on the screen, it's depicted as a triangle, right? And there's a place outside of that operating environment, decision-making continuum, that you cannot go and you should not go. It's called illegal, unethical, or immoral. Those, Jordan and Ben, are your three bounds, okay? You are bounded by that restriction. Do nothing illegal, unethical, or immoral. Okay. So therefore, everything that's not illegal, unethical, or immoral is in the realm of a reasonable or possible decision. Okay, and so as you continue to break the triangle down there, you see then from to the next layer is called the gray zone, where you're getting close to that illegal, unethical, or immoral, but you have not crossed that boundary. So therefore, decisions in the gray zone are legitimate and usable, we'll call it, decisions. Okay. Now, if you go way to the middle, you're going to see a yellow box. We're going to skip over the green. And if you go way to the middle, you'll see yellow. Now that, my good friends, is where most people live. Right dead smack in the center, nowhere near illegal, unethical, or immoral. Okay, which is fine to a degree. But as both of you just said and alluded to, if you do not leave your comfort zone, you will not grow. Okay? And so, and you said it, I think, Ben, one of the primary reasons that people do not want to leave that comfort zone comes down to a four-letter word that starts with F. F-E-A-R, fear, Jordan. But here's the good news, okay? That is not a solid line. When you're making decisions inside that yellow area or the comfort zone, it's not a barrier, it's simply a pass-through. So once you make the decision to step around one of those dashed lines, around one of those gates, we'll call it, you can go right outside the box and start making decisions without nothing's holding you back. So the only thing really that's holding you back from making those decisions outside the box is yourself, okay? And generally because it's a fear-based factor, and that comes down to your faith, and your witness, your testimony. What will they say about me? What if it's the wrong decision? What are my friends going to say? All these reasons that the enemy puts in your head to not spread your faith, or in the workplace, make bold decisions, are because of reasons that you're afraid of what's going to happen, generally speaking. Now, here's the thing. That comfort zone is where people operate. Now, the box, it is not in the illegal, unethical, or immoral realm, Jordan, Ben. It's actually inside of that triangle, but just outside of your comfort zone. So outside the box really means outside your box of aggregate decision-making thought. So now, when you start making decisions that go outside of your comfort zone, you can even, at times, transit to the gray zone a little bit to find the edge of the box. Don't live there, because eventually you'll spill over, which we said is a no-no. Right? You can find the edge of that, find the gray zone, and then you kind of dial it back to where you can operate without fear or worry about crossing the line to illegal, unethical, or immoral. And as you do that, it's the last thing I'll say, and then I'll hand it back over to you, Ben, for thoughts. As you do that, your comfort zone and as your aggregate mean of decision making starts to be scatter plotted outside the box at each decision point you make, your comfort zone grows. And so in a perfect world, your comfort zone now encompasses that yellow internal triangle is the whole green outside the box area, right? So your ability to make decisions and the experience that you lean on is now based on a much broader understanding, interpretation, and area of decision making where you can incorporate far more and you're far more comfortable, okay? And so that's from a personal perspective of decision making. Let's stay there first, and then we'll talk about how as a leader you can affect or not affect somebody else's comfort zone and decision making. But let's look where we are first and relate that to ourselves. And Ben, if you want to hit it, Jordan, where do you? I'm going to pull this down, and then.
Hold up. Can you leave that up for a second? I just want to ask you two questions before you turn it to Ben. Where do you think the enemy wants us in this?
The better, and where the enemy wants you, Jordan, is predictable, and he doesn't say, and that enemy is fear, Satan's fear tactic. And again, but once again, just like if you go back to the garden, when he talks to the woman, not named Eve yet, by the way, but when he talks to Eve, future Eve, named Eve, he doesn't tell her you can't. Remember that.
Right.
Telling you can't is a solid line. He only has a dash line to operate with, to influence, not to prevent. And so he doesn't say you can't. He says, did he or should you? He just makes you question it. So he doesn't prevent you from doing it. He just makes you question yourself and whether you should transit that barrier of fear, right? And so where he wants is in a predictable spot because he can work with that.
Yeah, that's good. And then last question. So in that green, so fear is keeping us from stepping out of our comfort zone into the green area, the outside the box area. So what's in the green zone there, the outside the box area that we are afraid of?
On it, fear of public speaking. I've never done it. It takes time to get comfortable. The more you do it, the bigger your comfort zone with public speaking will be. You go 28, right? Go make disciples. Go to Walmart and go proselytize, or go find someone who looks like they need the good news. McDonald's drive-through. So the thing preventing you is from doing that is yourself. How will it turn out? What will people think of me? That's primary, I think, the driving factor in that leadership.
Yeah, and I was thinking failure too, because failure exists in that green area. That's the whole idea of stepping out of your comfort zone and stretching, because people don't want to fail. It's like, hold up, there's a lot of growth in failure. It's just based on our perspective and how we see it. And yeah, 100%. All right, I'll stop now. Thanks.
You're good, man. I'll hit it.
Yeah, so this is really good, and the model is helpful. Two thoughts. One, folks, and when I say folks, including myself, I think we find ourselves remaining in the box because that's the way we've always done it, which we've talked on this podcast before about how detrimental that statement is for organizations, to have folks within your organization that may even be yourself saying, well, this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way we need to continue to do it. And that stunts organizational growth and stunts a learning organization. So, I think we all have to. Yeah, I mean, we've just all got to get to a place where it's like, okay, here's the problem statement or the issue, and we need to come up with we need to solve this problem. Maybe I need to look at it from a different angle. And a lot of times, as leaders, we may need to be the one to do that, or maybe we need to have somebody else on our team take a look at it because they see things differently, which again might be a little outside the box, right? So we're not, as a leader, we think we have to have all the answers when a lot of times we may have team members or folks that work for us that may have some answers that helps us see things from a different perspective to create a solution to a problem. Yeah, and I would say number 2 point is, that gray area. I think back to Jordan's point, I think that gray area too, getting close to that line of immoral, unethical, illegal is where the enemy wants us to. And the closer and the more often we flirt in that space, the more that, evil one will likely try to make us think that, we can get into that, it's going to be okay. Or maybe we do a little bit of it, nothing happens. And so we can keep going into that space because last time nothing happened. And so I think that's important. Another important aspect of, maintaining self-control and boundaries within those illegal, moral, and unethical decision making and, providing orders or telling people to do things that kind of gets in. The other part too is we got to be careful, right? Because you got to think about perception is reality. And I think if we stay too close to those boundaries, there might be a perception that we are being illegal, immoral, or unethical. And I think it's important for us as leaders and Christ-centered leaders to maintain a clear line of like what we are willing to do in order to solve a problem and where do we need to make sure we don't get ourselves in a particular circumstance where the perception may be we're doing something unethical or moral.
And then preventing yourself from going illegal, unethical, or immoral. Both come down. You have clearly articulated the value and requirement to surround yourself with people, friends, coworkers, other leader decision makers. Provide you that backup. One, they're going to help you. Like, hey, I'm thinking about this decision. I need your support. Maybe a little of encouragement. Get them, and up to you to do. Get you or get them outside the box to start with. Secondly, if you're collaborating with them, they're going to also sanity check that you don't go and dip through the gray into the illegal, unethical, or immoral, right? And you're bouncing these things off of them when you do it. And that's not a direct example, but Jesus did give us the structure and the breakdown of what that looked like, because he had his 3, he had his 12, and he had his 70, right? He had his 3 closest, Peter, James, John. He had his 12 disciples, right? And so he had folks around him that were at different echelons of trust that he showed things to, spoke into, and surrounded himself with, right? And the same goes for all of us. And for you, Ben or Jordan or me or whomever, like inside of a military world, like company commanders, you got 3 or 4 other ones that you can use to bounce things off of. If you're a consult or a business owner, a small business owner, you've got 3 or 4 others you probably should have networked with to run some sanity checks by. If you're a church and you're a leader, you've got 3 or 4 other deacons, who knows, right? Elders. Surround yourself with folks, but the key there is communication. Communication and accountability, communication with other people and accountability that they're holding you to is going to help you get out, but prevent you and make sure you stay inside that full decision-making continuum.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think with the last 10, so we just talked about how leaders themselves can think outside the box, right? And develop their own style to do that. But now let's flip it. Okay, now let's go up one echelon where now you're not the leader in the tactical sense. You're on the what do you call it? Boy, that's way. You're one above tactical. Help me. Strategic. It's
operational.
It's operational. I've only been retired for.
Yeah, I was about to say, man, you were just there a couple months ago. Come on.
Shows you how much. From the tactical to operational, which essentially in the military world is company grade to field grade. Okay, and so now once you get to the field grade level ish, you're now not a leader with boots on the ground. You're now leading leaders. And so whereas before you were developing your style that folks needed to generally conform to, you're now enabling or empowering other junior leaders to develop their style. So they shouldn't be conforming to yours, or you'll be, I don't want to ruin it, but stifling to some degree. So now you need to be a leadership chameleon per se, and you need to figure out what their style they're developing is, and then talk to each one of them individually at a level that they'll respond to. But the point here is, so as that next level up, and you're trying to help somebody else get outside their comfort zone and teach this or enable this, Jordan, what are some ways you can do it that will assist them in thinking outside, and then maybe even prevent them because of your leadership style and who you are from doing that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I would imagine there's a lot of people uh, listening that there's leadership is leadership, whether we're talking about fatherhood or we're talking about very tactical type of things, or we're going up the echelon chain. But it's an art, and it has to be applied differently, considering the environment, considering the leaders that you're trying to help develop, right? And considering their behavior style and whatnot. I think even then, it's more important to get their buy-in, because if you're at that level and you're just kind of look, or whatever. Let's say I'm a major, I'm a lieutenant colonel, and I got leaders below me that are whatever company commanders or that supervisors of some sort that lead, 100 or 200 each, right? So I got several hundreds of people that decisions at my level, it's going to affect. And I see them like they seem like they're in their comfort zone. I know that's not good. I want to take our organization out of it. I want us to grow, like all good things. But if you're way up at that level and you're just like, hey, we need to do this, this, and this, because I know that's going to take us out of our comfort zone. That's going to grow us. But yet those, intermediate leaders, those company commanders, so to speak, are like, oh, this is a little too much. I don't know how I'm going to execute this or that. So I think it's most important. You mentioned communication is a key. It's most important to bring those guys in and get their buy-in. You still need to have the ownership, the responsibility of leading your organization outside the box thinking for growth, to stretch them. But you need to be like walking them in that, developing them to take ownership of that stepping outside the box. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Maybe intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And I've been there myself as a leader where you think, nobody else can come up with a solution, but maybe because I'm in charge, or, I need to be able to be in a place where I can tell everybody exactly what they need to do and how to do it. And I think a lot of young leaders find themselves in that spot where, they're not providing an environment where feedback and input and ideas are not, and there is a structure that we kind of tend to be like this in the military for sure, right? Because the way the command structure and things like that. But I think there's opportunity for sure. And like I've always said, I'm hopeful that we have some listeners that are young military leaders who can learn from some of our experiences, definitely from a lot of our things we've done wrong, where we can go back and kind of see where we could have been better. But I think it's fostering an environment where we allow folks that they feel like they can come up with some solutions, they can provide ideas, and we've created some systems and processes that allow that to happen. And then we've got the AAR process or the IPR process in the Army.
After action report for those that don't know.
After action report, or in progress report, where we're allowing an environment where feedback and ideas can be cultivated, and folks trust their leader to be able to say, I'm not sure that's going to work, or I got maybe something better we could do. I think is super important.
You learn nowhere near as much from the flight as you do from the debrief, which is really the key takeaway here. If you
Yeah.
want folks to really begin to gain confidence, and confidence will help them overcome that fear, you need to debrief them on each evolution. Yet it could look like lessons learned every other Friday over a cold frosty beverage, right, in the squadron bar or at the Oak Club, or whatever. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it's with your church group, on a Wednesday night. But whatever it is, like, you've got after actions, Ben. We're basically talking through what we did, how it went, and what went well, and most importantly, what went wrong and how we fix it. Because it isn't generally what you did; it's what you do that matters, and what you're going to do with it. And we've said before, things that seem like curses. Look at Job. Things that seem like curses to some people or to you when it's happening are a blessing to someone else who gets the value and benefit of your experience of having gone through it, only if you share it with them. Which is not what you did, what you do. And Job, right? Look at what he went through. in the Bible, and you and I and we're all benefiting from it today. So it's a blessing to us to see that, and it emboldens our faith because we went through this. This is an example. So that's just one way to look at that. And so it's really important. I think you guys kind of both hit on it. Is like your leadership stifles growth, and it stifles growth because of micromanagement. And generally, micromanagement's bred from insecurity, a lack of confidence in your decisions. And so another important thing is, fellas, is like, and I'll end here. I might have said this last time. I'm not sure. Yeah, it was about David. I mentioned it. What are you doing in your prep time, right? And last night on the other podcast that I do, we had a guy on named J. Packy Dempsey. In 1994, he was in a gunfight. He was a cop. He was in a gunfight with his dog. Survived it, clearly. The other guy did not. But the point is, the guy in a wrestling match took his weapon, and he had to pull his back up, and then basically, say exterminate. That's not the right words. He had to defend himself. But the whole is he suffered from a lot of things, to include PTSD, for years, and he said he has a website or a book called The Fastest 4 Seconds, and he was saying this, that our entire life is made up of a finite amount of 4 segments. Okay, you never know what's going to happen in a future 4-second segment, so you have between now and 3 seconds from now, and then you have then 3 seconds more to do something to prep you for that. And what are you doing with it? Because 4 seconds, in his example, your life, change the life of the other individual involved in that arrest or altercation. And so we live in a finite amount of 4-second segments, fellas. So what are we doing with them? What pennies are we putting in the jar to be in our prep time for decisions we have to make, tough conversations we'll have to have, transition, Ben, right? You got transition out of the military or other things. And so we are in a perpetual state of prep time. And if we get to a point in which we're unable to help a brother or a sister in need because we weren't prepared to do so when we had the ability to do that prior to, that's on us, fellas. And the parable of the talents is the last thing I'll say. I'll hand it over to you guys for closing comments. But we were talking about the parable of the talents. One guy was handed 5, one was handed 2, and one was handed 1. The one with 5 went, traded it, risked a little bit, came, doubled it, 10. The guy with 2 doubled it to 4 through trading and bartering. And the other guy was afraid of God and what he'd do with the talent he was given. So he didn't want to risk losing it out of fear, so he buried it. A talent is 20 years worth of wage, okay, in this parable. That's a lot of stuff. He buried it out of fear because he didn't want to lose it and risk it. Well, that is similar to the gifts we've been given and the time and it's similar to our faith witness, fellas. The faith witness we have isn't ours, because without God, there would be no witness. So he's given that to us as a gift. So it comes down to it is you've been given that gift, you've been given witness. What are you doing to share that? And if you say, hey, you know what? I'm reading my Bible today, and I'm staying in my man cave or woman cave, redneck room, that's what I call it, redneck room, and just reading, and I'm keeping it to myself. At the end of this thing, he makes it very clear, you will be thrown to the ashes, and there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. He is not pleased, as in God is not pleased. And so unless you're taking those gifts and talents and that you've been given and multiplying them, fellas, you said that in the beginning, Jordan, we are not doing it right. And the same thing goes with training these young officers or these young leaders in how to think and make decisions inside that decision-making continuum of comfort zone or not. I rest my case.
That's good.
It's good, man.
I was thinking when you were talking about the 4 seconds, have you read the book Blink by Malcolm Gladwell? Great book. And that's, yeah, obviously he's talking about like the subconscious and how the subconscious, reacts without thinking. And I was just like, we can train the subconscious by preparing, right?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
System 1 and System 2 thinking. That's the difference.
We have to be preparing.
Action System 2 is you got to think about it first.
When we think about Jesus, his preparation, I mean, he is God, yet we understand he didn't start his ministry until he was around 30 years old. Like, he's God. He could have been out there, at whatever, 10. Right. Yeah, he could have just got up and started giving his sermons then, right? No, he was, patience, prep time.
Yeah. All right, Ben, final word goes to you, buddy.
I would just say, Eric, this was such a great and fruitful topic, man. And I think in so many ways, this can correspond with folks who are at different levels of leadership out there listening to this, whether it's leading our families, leading an organization, leading a volunteer team at your church. Think of ways in which you out there listening can get outside of your comfort zone. What is something going on in your life where you are thinking inside the box that God is calling you to step outside of your comfort zone, step out of your box? And I, from experience, can tell you that God will bless you when you get out of your comfort zone and you lean into God through an obedience, and through hearing Him speak to you through His Word, through the Holy Spirit, and you will be blessed when you step out there in that space. It's uncomfortable, and it's we talk about it here, and it's the three of us. It's still uncomfortable, but we know from experience that when we do step out of that comfort zone and we lean into God, that blessing will be on the other side. That's my word.
Minutes, that's right on. Jordan, he beats us if we don't meet his timeline thresholds.
Okay.
And so, verbally at least. And so, yeah, it was great to join y'all again. I look forward to the next days. So
Yeah,
join
always.
us. Come visit, come take a look at the book. Come look at the website. Jordan, you want to end with where they can find this stuff and where they can go to get more information, and we'll shut her down?
Yeah, I try to put it in the descriptions of the podcast notes and stuff, but yeah, you can grab the book. You can read more about it, and then there's a link to Amazon. But go to www.redletterleadership.com/book, and you can check it out and even download 31 lessons from it as like a free PDF just to check it out, preview it. All right. See you next episode.